Why are you calling Gege a she when Gege mentioned going to an all-boys high school? I'm actually curious. Well, is Gege a man? Are they a woman? Are they non-binary? Should we be focusing on gender that much? Let's have an in-detail discussion. And I do want to clarify that I'm answering this question to the general public and holistically. I am not directly talking to OP or critiquing OP specifically. And before watching this, I would recommend watching my video about Kirara and Urame and identity and gender, but that's not necessary. This past year I started posting a lot more vlogs, but unfortunately a lot of people don't actually watch my videos. When I start with a hook or a title or an opening question in a video, people will often go straight to the comment section, reply to the title or the hook, without actually watching the video and understanding the information that I've provided. Then my comment sections get filled with speculation and misinformation, and then when you compound that with all of the other discourse and confusion in the world, a lot of the things I diligently work on and talk about gets overshadowed. So one way I critique that or address that is by making little skits in my videos that act as little interruptions. So I'll randomly throw in recurring conversations or repeated comments that I've gotten over time, or sometimes I'll even talk about things that I predict people will say, and so far they have come true every single video. Gege drew herself as a woman, therefore she's a woman. Did you even watch the video? That right there was an example. So if you've ever watched my videos, then you can see in the comment section who has clearly watched my video and who has not, just by how they react. And two, it's a very efficient way for me to point out how ridiculous something sounds or how incessant some of the fan base can be, instead of having to articulate.
I hate when I'm having some conversation about race, gender, linguistics, or any other interesting topic, and someone comes around and derails the entire conversation, discrediting all the research and lived experiences I put into my videos, which further perpetuates XYZ, making my cosplays and content seem less detailed and nuanced than they really are.
All that can be squished into a 5-second clip. Stay with me, this is all going to be relevant. In my last video, I was discussing Kirara's color theme, and even though I think it's fine to think of her as non-binary or trans, I just used they them pronouns in that video. But typically I switch between she or they. Similarly, in previous videos and in real life, I switch between using they and he for Gege. But in this last video discussing Kirara's color scheme, I specifically referred to Gege using they them pronouns, except during the skits. I blame it on his color blindness. Can you stop for like 5 seconds, please? Scooty toilet? I was purposely quoting argumentative or annoying people or people who didn't pay attention, and specifically using he or she just once during those skits. And the 2 points were, one, just showing how many people were spamming me with the same comment over and over as if I'm not aware of it, but many people weaponize or overemphasize gender, which I had just talked about. People will derail from the conversation at hand by hyperfixating on gender, or since they're less educated on the topics of gender or identity, they're a lot less tolerant. So for example, if I were to say, Gege is only partially colorblind and we don't know what type of colorblindness they experience, someone might come in like, she is a woman and she is colorblind, even though I don't have a source for that fact and my friend just told me from a friend of a friend of a friend. And this happens regardless of whether I use he, she, or they, because the world is vast with a bunch of different opinions and you can't satisfy everyone. Do I think regularly misgendering someone is the gotcha that you should be using to make a point? No. And that is not something that I just regularly do. However, since I and many others are still unsure about how Gege identifies, and I was pointing towards a bigger overarching issue and a common theme within Jujutsu Kaisen, I chose to make that a very thought out exception. Stay with me, I know it's a dense video, stay with me. Ironically, I've only seen one person point out that they saw exactly what I was doing. And the rest of the people commenting on my pronoun usage seemingly fixated on the one time that I used she and not the one time I used he, or the other 5 minutes and 39 seconds of the video where I used Gege or they. Which, bad intentions or not, it very much felt like people were trying to correct me while simultaneously not understanding anything I said in the video, which is a common theme for my content. But now you should understand. As for Gege's gender, this phrasing or type of question feels somewhat like a fallacy, and I'm not an expert on fallacies, I don't have all the names and definitions memorized, but it's essentially like you're asking me a question assuming I know information in context that is not universally understood, because the majority of people don't know about Gege's identity or childhood. And as usual, I have an example. Imagine the following conversation. Wow, it's so pretty outside, the sky is so blue today. Hey, I was wondering, why do you call the sky blue when really the white light from the sun is being scattered so much that the blue is more prominent within the spectrum? Well, I wasn't actively ignoring that fact, I just wasn't thinking that, so that's why I said the thing I said. See how the questioning was kind of awkward? Most people are not thinking from that frame of reference, so it feels a little disingenuous to speak to people as if they are. Is there a fallacy name for that? I don't know. So yes, Gege did mention going to an all-boys school in a dialogue with Kubo in the JJK official fanbook. I don't own the fanbook and it's kind of hard to find an actual image, but if you just Google it, you can confirm that that statement is true. You can probably find a screenshot or an image somewhere. And the more that you dig on the internet, the more that you can find. No, there's a fan that's seen Gege, there's probably someone who went to school with Gege, and there's even an interview out there where you can see Gege's body. And the funny thing is, even in the process of structuring this vlog and planning and doing some extra research to make sure everything I said was coherent and made sense, I found a thread on Reddit directing people to a vlog with Gege Akutami and Mando Kobayashi, which supposedly Gege states their gender and clarifies that they're a man. And from a quick glance, the poster on Reddit seems to be knowledgeable and actually knows Japanese, but since I'm not fluent in Japanese myself, I can't go directly to the video and take a look and verify everything. Typically, I value looking at the source directly rather than hearing from someone else interpreting a primary source for me. And I'm not saying that this person is not correct, I'm just saying that feelings and opinions in general are not correct, and it's best to look at the primary sources. So I was only aware of the existence of that video within hours of making this vlog, October 6, 2024. And to my knowledge, if that Reddit thread is correct, that video would be the only direct confirmation that we have from Gege discussing their gender and identity. However, I've never actually spoken to anyone who has brought that conversation up. It's always been hearsay and opinion. So maybe after this video, my opinion could change. With that being said, a lot of people forget or choose not to understand that sex is not gender. And we cannot just confirm someone's gender from their body, so that argument by itself will never work for me. But more importantly, it seems that Gege Akutami rarely flaunts their body or their gender. Akutami Gege is a pen name, and if I'm gonna be honest, it feels like a lot of people are trying to figure out the mystery of Gege's gender to make themselves feel better, so they have a pronoun so they can just have something that fits their worldview and they can feel more comfortable, rather than wanting to know Gege's gender to just genuinely know how to address them. Me personally, I'm just trying to empathize with and respect Gege as best as I can, with the information and facts that I have. I'm gonna say that again, but a little bit differently. My goal is to respect and understand Gege in the way that they want to be seen. But I can only do that with as much information as I have available at any given time. And it appears that Gege doesn't even want their body to be the focal point of their content that they produce. They want their art to speak for them. So again, I'm giving my viewpoint prior to this interview, but I would often choose they or he because those seem like the most respectable options. And it seemed like Gege's gender was unconfirmed, but they lean more towards being masculine. The last thing I want to bring up, which I've talked about before, is that Japanese is a very contextual language. And from my experience, every official translation or every official interview that I've seen doesn't even use a pronoun for Gege Akutami. They use Gege, they use Akutami, or they use they. And anytime some sort of Japanese media is translated to English, the translators are contextually adding in pronouns, which means there can be room for human error and bias because this is not always easy. And I'm saying this as a person who has learned basic Japanese, has talked to translators, and who's talked to people who are bi and multilingual. One example I heard was a translator working on a video game release trailer. At one point, they were trying to figure out the gender for each character, and then they were trying to figure out who was talking to who. So they had to ask for context, inside details, things that weren't released yet, little tidbits. That way they can accurately translate the trailer for English audiences. I think a good example from the JJK anime itself is when the characters are asked what Gojo is to them. And I believe none of them use the pronoun he. They either use sensei or just start speaking without using any pronouns or proper nouns. Again, I'm not fluent, so I can't confirm every single thing they say, but instead of literally saying he's an idiot, yeah, an idiot, salmon, but needless to say, he's the strongest, the literal translation of the Japanese would be something like idiot, idiot, salmon, needless to say, strong. And translation is not meant to be literal because that would be pretty incomprehensible to a lot of English speakers. And this is just something that a lot of people who speak English and watch Japanese media will never comprehend. And this is the curse of being a well-rounded, detail-oriented content creator. People assume I'm just some dude who cosplays and gives his anime opinions when really I'm well-rounded. I'm trained in a lot of things from linguistics to healthcare, to science, to music, art, and more. And I'm actively seeking out facts to try and find out the truth or change my viewpoint. However, the average viewer does not have the range or the lived experiences that I do, which is partly why I'm making these videos, but it's also why I get a lot of bad faith and pigeonholed arguments and opinions. But that's how things go. My goal is never to really be incorrect or not be able to be criticized, because even if everything I said today was incorrect, the goal is that I got you to think. I got you to think for yourself, I got you to figure out how I think, and we can have more productive conversations.